What is it that you do there?
Well, it's a new age cult. No, it's not a new age cult. It's the integrative and alternative medicine program at the University of Minnesota. So that's why it's in the academic health center. It's part of the medical school. And what I do there is I teach courses. I teach 2 courses here, ethnopharmacology, a course called People, Plants, and Drugs, an introduction to ethnopharmacology, and another one called Botanical Medicines, which is much more cut and dried, mostly about herbal medicines and kind of directed toward health professionals. And I am, my title is more impressive than the actual job. I'm one of these low-paid, part-time adjunct professors. So I don't even have a full-time job there, but it's nice to put on a resume, and I enjoy teaching, but it's not my whole shtick, although I've been at it for, ever since Terrence died, really, since I joined them about 2000, and I teach courses there, and now all my courses there are online. It was under their sponsorship that Kat and I were teaching courses out in Hawaii. We were teaching a course together called Plants in Human Affairs every January. And that was a accredited course through them, through the Center for Spirituality and Healing.
And at this point, do I understand it correctly that you have kind of a focus or a lot of interest, let's say, in ayahuasca? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And it's become quite a well-known. Ayahuasca has become quite well-known at this point. Its use is fairly widespread, and it's spreading even more. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's almost mainstream in some regards.
Well, yeah, to the extent that a psychedelic can ever be mainstream, it is getting a lot of attention. Considering that 10 years ago, well, maybe 15 years ago, if you ask the average person on the street, have they ever heard of ayahuasca, they would probably say no, but probably most of them now would at least have heard of it. So it is going more mainstream, and I think the reasons that it's doing so are complex. I mean, I think on one hand, if you really step back from this and look at it in a kind of a, long-term perspective, I think, this is a manifestation of, what amounts to a coevolutionary relationship with our species. So this is just the next phase of that, which has gone on for a couple thousand years at least. And now ayahuasca's gone global in a sense. It's escaped from the Amazon, as you well know, since you've been to Hawaii. I mean, that was the first place it escaped to, not without a little help from myself and Terrence and Kat, and we were probably the first people to bring ayahuasca into Hawaii, and since then it's spread all over the globe, and people are going down to South America for these retreat centers and so on. So it's quite an interesting phenomenon how quickly it's gotten this global presence. And much of the press, much of the publicity and what you hear about it is positive, which is remarkable too, because, most of the mainstream media talking about psychedelics, they tend to put a negative cast on it. They seem much more positive with respect to ayahuasca, and it's all about the mystique, I think, mysterious jungle brew from the shamans, from the rainforest, all this. It's got all that going for it. It also has a occasionally, bad things do happen when people go down to Peru and get in the wrong place, or they are unprepared, or various things. I mean, the whole ayahuasca tourism thing in Peru, particularly around Iquitos, which is kind of the epicenter of all this, it's very much the Wild West, and everybody and their brother-in-law is a shaman down there now because, there's huge economic incentives to cater to gringos, and they do, and not all of these places are ethical, not all of the shamans are ethical, and so on. But that said, probably 90% or more of the people that go down there, they go for a meaningful experience and a bit of a travel adventure, and they come back satisfied pretty much, and with they don't have any real problems, and some of them learn a lot, and some of them really feel that it helps their own self-development and their own spiritual evolution, if you want to put it that way. And I think that people are driven to have these experiences because I think they have an innate longing for a meaningful experience, and our culture doesn't really fulfill that. It doesn't serve it up very well. In former days, that people would look to religion, or they would look to their faith for that. But those institutions don't really provide meaningful experiences anymore. I mean, people feel compelled to look outside their, what they might have looked for in the past for a sort of a spiritual satisfaction. They're not getting it from these institutions, and in fact, we could talk about that, but I think, religious institutions, organized religious religions and institutions are, almost set up, almost conditioned to make sure that nobody does have a meaningful experience. There's a certain separation between the individual and what you might call the numinous, or the mystery, what Rudolf Otto called the mysterium tremendum,